Drop it like it was the Epstein file. Oh, well. All right, guys, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, John Iadarola, Mark Thompson with you guys. Mark's show is called The Mark Thompson Show. Check that out on YouTube. John Show's Damage Report. And this show, when it airs, is called The Young Turks. Okay. So, no, seriously, guys, we just had a bit of a technical issue. Sorry about being late. But we got a lot to get to. We got Epstein news all over the place. We're going to start with it first. Second hour, we have more updates. We have Marjorie Taylor Greene going on the warpath on a couple of fronts against the Israeli lobby. We got so many stories. Just stay right here. John, go.
Okay, in fact, we should just go.
We were all told there was more, and now they're telling us there's nothing.
And like a sap, you believed them.
Damn, that's an aggressive podcast they got going on right there. But that, of course, is Steve Bannon and Jack Posobiec, conservative influencer. And they're fighting, as seemingly everybody in the MAGA world is fighting over the perception that Donald Trump is the head of a massive effort to cover up Jeffrey Epstein and his files and his client list and all of that. And so Bannon is now lumping Posobiec in, not just as a person who had talked about the conspiracy, but that might have actually been a participant in the cover up himself. And so we're gonna get to that, as well as the many other fights that aren't just imperiling perhaps the MAGA electoral chances, but might even result in people leaving the administration. And so we're gonna get to all of that. But Cenk, are you delighting in all the chaos?
I am, but I'm not delighting in the files not being released and the government lying to us in preposterous ways. And apparently other people are not delighting in it, because one of the things we're about to tell you is Dan Bongino is considering leaving the administration. He's apparently furious. But are they really going to do anything? They can fire Pam Bondi as a scapegoat, Bongino can leave. But unless they release the files or actually prosecute a single rapist, none of that is going to matter. Anyway, we'll have all those amazing details coming up for you guys, but also the detail of, turns out the prison tape that they said was raw, not raw. Wired magazine, excellent article explaining that it was edited. I mean, this is an epic disaster for the government, for Trump, for every part of this. And as you can see here, I mean, that's Steve Bannon in that first video yelling at Posobiec that he was a sap for participating in the Trump administration stunt about the Epstein files. So that's like MAGA on MAGA crime live on the air. And this is just ripping, it's actually not ripping MAGA apart. MAGA is almost completely united against the Trump administration. And that is stunning.
There's just a few people like Alex Jones that have come up with like a new, deeper level of the deep state that Trump is covering this up to help fight as he tries to work through it.
Of course.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And there's the revelations about the tape. I don't find the tape thing as damning as you do. Sometimes these things happen. Like most people don't know, every Friday, we need about 4 minutes for the tape to reset before the show can go live.
Yeah, that's why there's a minute missing in every Young Turks episode.
Exactly, it's not suspicious. It's just the way it works. Anyway, so we're gonna get through all of them, but why don't we start with Posobiec, who, what was it, a couple months ago, was one of those right-wing influencers that was brought as part of a PR stunt to meet up with Pam Bondi, who had her Epstein files binders, and every one of them rushed to Rumble and wherever the hell they do their shows to say, we're gonna blow the lid off this thing and we're gonna take down the Clintons, and then nothing happened because there was nothing of note in the binders, which in hindsight now might have been the first indication that nothing at all was going to come of this. But so that's Posobiec's role, is that he received the binder, and that's what Bannon I think is implying, that he was a sap, that he was a participant in the cover-up, not just a guy who sort of is commenting on it now. But that said, now that you understand that background, why don't we get a little bit more between those two?
There is enormous confusion on my part. We're told that there's a list on a desk where, Jack, I don't want to get into your whole thing, but you know how
but
Jack
I get told
was used.
that's
I mean, let's
phase
just be
one.
honest, right?
I get told that's phase one.
No,
They
it's
said
not Jack's
2,
fault. Jack
3,
was used. I hope
4.
you guys understand that.
Thank you,
And-
Charlie. But
no,
I
mean
was
that.
told there'd be more. We were all told there was more, and now they're telling us there's nothing.
And like a sap, you believed them. You're from the intelligence community. Jack Posobiec, you're from the intelligence community. They're playing us. They're playing all of us. By the way, it's just not the media.
Steve,
Screw the media.
Steve,
They're part of it.
Recovering.
So yeah, Bannon's really on fire, pointing out that Posobiec was from the intelligence community. He means naval intelligence, not that he's an intelligent person. So don't worry about that. But anyway, they were doing that at this Turning Point USA Student Action Summit. They have these summits seemingly every single weekend, and they go there to all stand rather than sitting while doing these shows. But anyway, they're not just mad, the attendees were mad too. And so let's turn now to some of that.
We want to put America first. Like, we're here for the Republican movement, right? But we aren't really seeing it with this administration. I mean, when are we going to get what we voted for?
Yeah, we're getting lied to. The pedophiles aren't being rounded up. The people aren't getting deported. We're not getting what we asked for.
Do you agree with a special prosecutor has to be an independent special prosecutor has to take over? Do you believe that DOJ and FBI right now, with the guys who we're all close to, Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, do you think they have any credibility left to pursue this?
No, and I'll tell you exactly why, Steve, because in 2016, we trusted the plan with Trump. But now Trump has become the deep state. The exact thing we voted him in.
Why do you say he's become the deep state?
What is more deep state than covering up for pedophiles? Why would you go to that island? Why? Tell me, why would you go to that island?
Looks like that guy might be choosing the Elon Musk side of the split, but yeah, they were very fired up against Donald Trump, and not just Donald Trump. I would imagine is going to end up trying to save himself. He's going to start pointing the finger. He always does. He throws people under the bus, and that might even be what's happening, which we'll get to. That no, it's not actually him. It's these other people, but all of those people are his people, trusted people on the right, trusted people in the Trump orbit. Pam Bondi's his personal lawyer. It's not a holdover from the previous administration. He specifically chose her after Matt Gaetz got rejected. But either way, he loved both of them. And so there's still a little bit of weird cognitive dissonance when you have like the second guy who talked who's like, well, I don't know, we're not getting what we paid for. And he's like smiling while talking about the fact that the guy he trusted most in politics is covering up for elite pedophiles. Like that on some level, this is still kind of a game in some way, but at least you did have people willing to say that they feel betrayed, and not just by the potential scapegoats, but by Trump himself.
Guys, if you're on the left and you're not seeing it, and I get it, you might not see it because of the different media that you consume. No, 90% of MAGA is in rebellion. And so this is not like, oh yeah, they're full of crap and it's not real and they're all lying. No, this is not close. Those guys are real. And you can tell when they're real or not when they say things like, yeah, what the hell, man? They didn't round up all the stupid immigrants. Like they still have their points of view that we can't stand, right? And that we totally disagree with. But this is, the Epstein files is the very, very core of MAGA. So like this is now MAGA versus Trump. And if you're not like, so are some MAGA making some small excuses for Trump? Sure, right? And are some of the influencers trying to misdirect, like Alex Jones? Oh, they were too big to jail, so that's why we should let the rapist bankers go. And Trump is being a genius by letting him go.
Well, he's saying that he's using it as blackmail material over the world leaders.
Yeah, whatever, like some nonsense, right? But nobody's even buying that, not in core MAGA. Later, they will change their excuse, and a lot of people will buy this later, and it's begun, which is, oh no, Biden got rid of the evidence. That is why we could not do. What did Trump do in his first term? But overall, my read of it online and everything I've seen, and that's why Dan Bongino is apparently so furious. He took today off in protest. He apparently had a huge shouting match with Pam Bondi. Is any of that stuff relatively real? Yes. Is he trying to protect himself? Yes. Is he trying to make it seem like, hey, look, it's not me, it is Pam Bondi, and it is definitely not me? Yes, all of that. But the reason he's doing that, the reason why Steve Bannon is calling for a special prosecutor in the Trump administration, unheard of. Like, we don't trust Trump, we need a special prosecutor. That's Steve Bannon saying that. And then the reason why almost every host, Charlie Kirk and the others, you could tell they're super reluctant, right? But they're like, yes, this is really bad. The girls didn't rape themselves, because their audience is going, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now you're gonna turn around and say that there were no clients? You're not gonna prosecute a single person? And Andrew Schulz, who we'll talk about later in the show, in one of the many things that he said on the Flagrant podcast was like, wait, so you're saying that, like, you ran on Epstein, Trump. You ran on Epstein is being, the files, and I'm gonna release them, etc. And you already had one term. So like if there's something incriminating the files, you would know. And then you ran a whole nother campaign saying there definitely was, and you were gonna expose it. So now when you come out and say, there were no clients and there is no list. No, you're compromised in one way or another. Like, it is absolutely inescapable. So more of that evidence in a minute, but Mark, what's your first take on this?
Yeah, I think that you do a good job of decoding what are sort of two aspects to this. One is the political MAGA world and the damage potentially to Trump as a result of that political world turning on him. You saw bits of it. And I think also the reputational problems, the stink reputationally for Trump. I thought that was a great question. Like, what are you doing going to this island over and over again? What are you doing sort of hanging out with this guy? It's undeniable that this guy is what we know. And so even if we don't get the files or the list or the black book, it's you, Donald Trump, who reputationally pay a price. And the reason you additionally pay that price is because you are helping to withhold this information. So I think, that which we knew, that is to say that Trump was tight with Epstein. I don't know to what extent he was involved with all of this, but it becomes kind of hard to push away when you're hanging out with the guy on his jet all the time, going to his island, going to the different properties. You're doing that enough. I think it turns the focus back onto Trump. So reputationally, he has done some harm along the way as well. On the political stuff, Cenk, I yield to you because I think you have a better sense of what's happening with MAGA Nation than do I. I always feel like they'll rationalize their way out of it, but there may just be too much going on here for them to do that.
And guys, that's so, Mark, to your point real quick. I lived through all of the different stages, right? So I would tell MAGA, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 1 year ago, hey, Trump said that Epstein's a terrific guy and they were best friends for 15 years. And Trump even said, hey, everybody knows Jeffrey likes him young. Like, so he knew definitively. And back then the reaction from MAGA was, F you don't know anything. He said, it was Clinton covering it, it was Biden, And they just deflection, never acknowledged it. Now, when I do the same thing, they're like, yeah, you're totally right. What the hell? Why don't? And I don't know, I would love to ask some of them, bunch of them, like, guys, what did you, why did you not believe it before and now you do believe it? Like, isn't it obvious you were wrong earlier, right? Yeah. And but we don't need to even get into that. The fact that they now do believe it makes a big difference. Does everybody think that Trump did something with Epstein? No. Okay, do a lot of them now wonder if Trump did something with Epstein? Yes. Yeah, and they're taking that quote a lot more seriously now. Because guys, remember, the core of MAGA, whether we like it or believe it or agree or don't agree, they think they're anti-establishment. Like, they think we're gonna go get the elites, right? They talk about the elites all the time, etc. So the reason they loved Trump and believed in Trump was they thought, it's not true, but they thought he was anti-establishment. They thought he was anti-elites. And what do we say on the Young Turks over and over again? He's a fake populist, right? He plays a good populist game that's smart politically, and the Democrats are knuckleheads for not doing the same thing, but he doesn't mean it. He already had one term. He was already best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. He loves the donor class. What did he do in the first term and the second term? Giant tax cuts for rich and the corporations, right? He's a fake populist. And now when he does the same exact thing that MAGA accused the deep state of doing, the establishment, the elites of doing, and the very core of it, Epstein files, the very core, that's what broke the camel's back. So it doesn't mean that they don't trust him on anything else. But this is massive damage to Trump's credibility with MAGA.
Yeah.
And it's gonna have much more consequences for other issues as well.
They confuse the fact that he has a lot of enemies and some of them are elites with him being an enemy of the elites, which is not.
Yes,
and I think
that's right.
The reason,
that's exactly right.
The reason that he has been so caught flat-footed on this thing, like the only other time that sort of reminds me a little bit is the vaccine stuff, where like he says things, they mean it. Like the base. Like he'll say, stop the testing, COVID's fake or whatever, but he still thinks we should have a vaccine because he's not actually a colloidal silver Instagram zombie or whatever. And so he has a vaccine come out because he doesn't actually mean the anti-vax stuff. He eventually caught up because he was getting booed at rallies and everything. And I think this is an even worse example where, yeah, he mentioned Epstein in his rallies. He doesn't actually believe the QAnon stuff. And he doesn't get that it's a helpful game to him to get people fired up, but there's millions of, not just Republicans, but predominantly Republicans that believe it more than they believe literally anything else. And so for him, it's like, yeah, we had fun with that during the campaign, but now I'm in power and now it's about tax cuts. So shut up with your stupid conspiracy theories. And he doesn't get that they believe that. But anyway, we got to get to the other big part. Or should we take our first break maybe before
we promised them, so let's.
Okay, then why don't we jump into this right now? Even inside of the Trump administration, prominent members of MAGA are roiling with this whole Epstein thing. And we want to start with this guy first because Bongino apparently got into a big tiff with Pam Bondi. And as of right now, at least, he's off the job. He took the day off, I guess, which is a thing that you can just do abruptly, even when you have a really important job. And a source close to Bongino said he ain't coming back, which is not a guarantee, but sources are now saying he is considering that if Pam Bondi doesn't go, he'll go. And I hope somehow all of them, but it's not up to me. Now, Caitlin Collins reports it's accurate that Dan Bongino has told people he's considering resigning in a major clash between the FBI and the DOJ over the fallout from the Epstein memo. Apparently, he got into it with Bondi about the missing minute in the tape. And so he apparently is mad because he's been taking some of the blame for not catching the fact that it had the missing minute before they put it out. And Bondi's mad at him because he's been telling the press that he and Kash Patel have been stopped from releasing more information about the Epstein files, but they're not releasing that additional information. And he has a lot of power, unto himself, let alone Kash Patel. And so people are saying he's not happy with the way that Pam Bondi has dealt with the Epstein files. And I think all of this is fascinating, but I also think that it's convenient to just assume, oh, wait, maybe Pam Bondi's the cause of the cover up. And actually, Bongino and Kash Patel, who made a name for themselves and tons of money before entering the administration, talking about this story, they're secretly fighting the good fight. But the thing is, they've been participating in the early steps of this cover for literally months. They've been doing those interviews and going on with, Joe Rogan and going on with all these people and being like, I haven't seen anything and there's no evidence yet the guy killed himself. And like maybe they have an issue with the tape, but they haven't. What have they been saying over the past few months while these files have been sitting waiting to be reviewed? They've been like mum's the word, and any of their public comments, I think, are totally consistent with either a cover up or that there is in fact nothing. And I want everyone to bear in mind, this is just me, feel free to disagree. It could be that both of them are and always have been true believers on this stuff. And now they're aghast at the fact that either nothing is coming up, in which case one would think they would perhaps apologize for leading their audiences on for literally years as they soaked up the money from it. Or that it is important as they watch, as Cenk points out, MAGA 90% in revolt over this. They're thinking, okay, I have this great job. And I don't want to say anything that's going to get Donald Trump to be mad at me, but Donald Trump's heart could explode in his chest in about 6 months. And I would like to have a media career for the next 20 years. And this is perhaps a moment where if I'm not seen to be on the right side of this, that's it for me. And MAGA will never trust me.
Yeah.
And we know how powerful audience capture is for a lot of these people. And so they have a ton of loyalty for Trump, but they also desperately want more mansions and fancy cars in the years ahead.
Yeah, so that is exactly right. So there's two different issues here. But before that, we're doing a poll in the live chat. Watch the show Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock. I love you guys participating in this. And this is now a really good question. Who's out first? Bongino, Bondi, or Kash Patel? Bongino seems like he's halfway down the sword, so that's why he's winning. But Pam Bondi is going to be the scapegoat. So let's get into that. So the two different issues are: why is Bongino freaking out the way that he is, and he's taking the day off, saying that's it, I'm considering resigning. Not just considering resigning, but apparently telling almost everyone in the MAGA world. Because there's leaks everywhere, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I might quit. Oh, remember, I'm the good guy, I might quit, right? So we'll see if he does or he doesn't. But so that's point one. And the reason he's doing that is because the MAGA base is like, F this, all of you have zero credibility left. It turns out you're compromised. Look, you egg on conspiracy theories for 10, 20 years straight. 10 years, let's give them, right? The Bonginos of the world. And then when that Frankenstein turns on you, you're gonna be surprised. Like, especially the core Frankenstein you built, right? Now, in this case though, to be fair to MAGA, they're 1,000 times more right than Bongino, Kash Patel, Bondi, and Trump, right? Because what's the actual conspiracy theory? That hundreds of girls raped themselves? And that there are no clients and no one should be prosecuted? No, that's not the conspiracy. So that's the conspiracy theory. The government position, the Bongino position right now is a wild, ludicrous conspiracy theory. The idea that it's nefarious forces who our government is covering up for is the leading theory. And by the way, that's not just a MAGA theory, that's also the left-wing theory. And then, by the way, the middle-wing theory. No one thinks those girls raped themselves, that there were no clients, and we shouldn't prosecute a single person. Other than mainstream media reporters and politicians, I don't know a single person who believes that, left, right, middle, right? So the government's position is a lunatic conspiracy theory. MAGA agrees with all of us, BS. And the fact that they were at least like not, they were objective enough to say, yeah, no, this is wrong, and the Trump team is lying. I don't know why they're lying, but they're definitely lying. That is why Bongino's jumping out of his skin, because you're right. If they keep going like this, Kash Patel, Bongino, Pam Bondi's already gone. She has no career left in the right at all anymore. There's not a single, the right wingers will never vote for Pam Bondi. She's gone, gone, gone. That's why she's gonna be the first one under a bus. Bongino might leave earlier, but Pam Bondi's, like, her new nickname could be Road Bump, because she's going under a bus. There's no question about that. They're all referring to her as Pam Blondie, and the whole thing about the Epstein files are on my desk, and then giving out the binders, and now she's saying no, nonsense, puts out a total BS tape, etc. So she's a goner. What Trump would love, what that team would love is, oh, it was all Pam Bondi's fault. It was all, and no, not Bongino, not Kash Patel, not Trump, not any of the rest. It was Pam Bondi, right? But here's where it all breaks down, which is the core of the issue, the second issue, the more important one. Yes, but Bongino can leave and Bondi can get fired, but where are the freaking clients? If you're never gonna release the client list, and you're never gonna tell us a single person who did this, and you're never gonna prosecute anyone, and you're gonna stick with your lunatic conspiracy theory that the girls raped themselves, it's not gonna solve anything.
Yeah.
It's not gonna solve Bongino's problem with his career. If he comes out and goes, no, they're right, he killed himself and there were no clients. No one in MAGA is gonna listen to him, not one person. So the quitting and the firing is irrelevant. Are you actually going to do it or not? Look, guys, I think this is so big. This is not like, oh, hey, that's an interesting, amazing story of MAGA turning on Trump and blah, blah, blah. No, like, this to me feels like somebody taking the finger out of their dam. Because now, like, across the board, F the government, F the establishment, we don't believe a word they say anymore. So you could yap on CNN or the New York Times and call everybody conspiracy theorists, etc. But Epstein and his very rich and powerful clients did rape underage girls. None of them have been prosecuted. And the American government, at a minimum, is definitely protecting the rapists. So now, and by the way, Trump did it, Biden did it, Trump did it, every president did it. So don't tell me it's not an intelligence agency. Like, yeah, maybe every president raped an underage girl, and that's why they're all not releasing the files or the evidence. But Trump ran on it, man. He ran on it. And so now to come in and go, the thing that you care most about, MAGA, I mean, that is like sticking the knife right into their heart, right? It's not
to snap at a reporter for bringing it up. Like he personally hates that it's still being talked about.
Yeah, no, he's in a world of trouble, but the entire institutions are in trouble now. Like no one, like Jake Tapper will later write a book about how no one could have seen this coming. We all see it coming, Jake. We all see it coming. All right, Mark.
Well, they ran as outsiders, right? I mean, initially, you sort of suggest this false populism really was something to sell when Trump was an outsider and Bongino was an outsider and Patel was an outsider, and they could write these books and do their podcasts and claim, those people on the inside, they're holding it back. It's right here. It's at the FBI. Are you kidding? That's where it is. Now you run the FBI, Kash Patel, and you guys are all in charge. And so you're on super thin ice, and you could release something even with redactions. So they can redact the hell out of the thing. They've done that with other stuff, with JFK, with MLK. They redacted a bunch of stuff. We'd already seen it before, but they tried to take a victory lap on how they'd released it. You're right, Cenk. There is something huge about this. And because it's something huge, it only gets bigger the more we wait day after day after day. I love the idea that they would throw Bondi under the bus, but that won't be enough for them to skate away from this.
Yeah, no way. And then the last piece is what I promised you earlier in the show. Wired magazine did a terrific piece about the tape that they released. They said that it was raw footage from the prison, and I was instantly amused when Pam Bondi explained, oh, every prison tape has a minute missing. Do they? Every prison tape does? I'm not sure that's true at all, right? To say the least. All right, so already it started out disastrous, but now Wired has proven not raw, edited by Adobe Premiere Pro, and there's two clearly distinct parts edited together. Okay, now that doesn't mean that they doctored it. It doesn't mean that we know they took out something incriminating. All we know is they said it was raw, definitely not raw, definitely edited. And so we just don't know how it was edited. We don't even know if the edit was around the 1 minute mark, like that's the edit, or it was a different edit. And there's different ratio problems to the video. The video is a mess. And there is a theory that, oh, well, look, they were just trying to clean it up so it looked presentable, right? But they actually released two different videos, one that was more cleaned up and one they called the raw footage. And it turns out the raw footage isn't raw. That one was also edited. So none of these stories add up.
The stockpile of stuff that is associated with the offing of Jeffrey Epstein, everything from the removal of his roommate from the cell to, well, it turns out one guard was asleep, the other guard was playing or buying something on Amazon. The cameras didn't work that night. I mean, at what point do we just understand that something else went down? There's just way too much of a constellation of events here for us to ignore it.
Yeah, last thing, Alex Acosta was the guy who gave him a light sentence back in 2008. Remember, Epstein got caught earlier, and Acosta basically slap on the wrist. Acosta later, even though he's a prosecutor, became the labor secretary for Donald Trump in his first term. So strange. There's so many strange things. If you don't know this, by the way, I don't know if this has anything to do with anything, but Attorney General Bill Barr's dad was the first person to hire Jeffrey Epstein. Not for sex, as a math teacher at a private school, and when Jeffrey Epstein didn't even graduate college. This whole thing about like he's like a financial genius. He doesn't know anything about finance. Okay, like this is insane. Like, did you know Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was a legendary Israeli spy? Got a state funeral. Yitzhak Rabin came to it. Did you know that at one point Jeffrey Epstein said that he works with the CIA? And did you know that Alex Acosta, when challenged, this is according to sources, it's not, he didn't say it in public or in court, but they said, why'd you give him such a light sentence? And he said, well, the intelligence agencies told me to. Okay, so if that source is correct, we already know what happened. We don't know which intelligence agencies, but obviously the CIA or our government is helping. Either is the intelligence agency or is helping that intelligence agency. So the idea that intelligence agencies are like a conspiracy theory, no. That is a very reasonable conclusion, an eminently reasonable conclusion given the evidence at hand. The idea that there were no clients, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like that's no one on planet Earth believes that. Okay, all right, we gotta go. We got more amazing news, so stay right here. All right, so let's go to social media. Let's go to Super Chat first. Frisco Dragon writes in, wasn't Prince Andrew banished from the royal family over this Epstein case? Seems as though there's something there. Oh, I mean, look, guys, there's 1,000 pieces of evidence. You're totally right. Andrew paid a giant settlement. JP Morgan Chase paid a giant settlement to the victims for facilitating Epstein's financing. Well, if there were no clients and no one got raped, why is everybody giving tens of millions of dollars in settlements? I mean, this is the government, like this is full 1984. The government telling you, you must reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. And that was their most important command. I mean, that's where we are. We're at the epicenter of that now. That's why the whole country's going, no, I can't take it anymore. Right? So Rose Turner says to John Cenk for that jab about the tape reset, 10 points to Gryffindor. That's hilarious. Got them, God. God, I wish everything wasn't terrible. Thank you for the hard work. Okay, I like that 10 points to Gryffindor reference. I don't know, I might be a bigger Harry Potter expert than you these days.
We're gonna have to test that.
Oh, that could be fun, because I watched a lot of that with the kids.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, okay, Sionad writes in, Epstein's victims didn't rape themselves. Epstein didn't kill himself either. What do Trump and Barr really know about Epstein's murder? Yeah, actually, Bill Barr was the attorney general when Epstein died. However he died, right? And he came out and was like, oh, nothing to see here. No, definitely killed himself, we're all good. I didn't know at the time that his dad was the first person to hire Epstein. Like, what a random trippy fact, right? I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with anything because he was running a private school that and Epstein was a college dropout at that point, hadn't done any of this yet. But wow, what a trippy fact about that. Anyways, Small White Wolf, a YouTube member, makes a really good point, and it's compelling. Major point, this was our children who suffered. Yeah, I think one of the things here is, if it's the CIA who did it, or an ally or whatever, it is too tough a pill to swallow to say, yes, we had the children raped for our benefit. That is a devastating thing. Right? Devastating. So that's why they can never, ever, ever admit it. And so that's why they're never gonna release the files, and that's why the finger's out of the dam and the dam's in trouble. Because this is a government changing kind of thing where they say, yeah, we raped those American children and there's nothing you can do about it, and we're gonna protect the rapists. It's just too devastating. For everyone, right, left, it doesn't matter, for any human being. All right, I'm already out of time. Sorry, guys. We'll be right back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, John, and Mark with you guys. Also, Torjo Dragon and Lance, thank you for signing up through that big, beautiful button below the video on YouTube. And CDN Northstar Dad, thank you for gifting a membership through YouTube as well. We appreciate it, John.
Okay, yet another update on the status of the Iranian nuclear program, starting with this.
Iran has never given up its quest for nuclear weapons and the missiles to deliver them.
That's because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying this for more than 30 years, claiming Iran is close to having
nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons, nuclear weapons, atomic bombs.
In 1992, as a member of parliament, Netanyahu addresses the Knesset. He says, within 3 to 5 years, we can assume that Iran will become autonomous in its ability to develop and produce a nuclear bomb.
So perhaps just keep that in mind as we reveal what an anonymous Israeli official is now saying about the status of the Iranian program. So they are saying that, in fact, some of Iran's enriched uranium survived the attacks of both Israel and the United States, which there have been prior reports to that effect, but this is now an actual official in the Israeli military that is saying the same thing. They also said, and again, we're not gonna find out who this is, New York Times is protecting their identity, is that there was near bomb grade uranium buried in the ruins of one of the nuclear facilities that were bombed, but that the entrances to get into that facility have been destroyed, necessitating perhaps months of digging out to be able to get into there. Key laboratories at the facility were destroyed by the US, and that if they were to try to dig back into these facilities, that Israel would be able to detect that. And if that were to happen, then there would be time to attack the facilities. Again, that's what they're saying. And so they are laying out their belief that there's cause to attack the facilities, that this is not simply about worrying about them reconstituting their nuclear weapons program, but that there's stuff right there, right now, that theoretically could justify future attacks. And so again, it's an anonymous official, and the Israeli government is hardly an impartial source for information on the Iranian nuclear program, but that's what they're saying right now, which, by the way, also contradicts what Donald Trump would have you believe, which is that everything Iran has ever done in this area was utterly obliterated by this strike. And so, Cenk, what do you trust coming out of this? Why do you think they're saying this now?
Okay, so there's two different things. Was it fully destroyed or not? And why are we having this conversation? So was it totally destroyed? How do I know? Nobody knows, okay? The American government doesn't know, the Israeli government doesn't know. I'm not sure the Iranian government knows, because they gotta dig out first, right? So is it possible that it was not totally destroyed? Of course it's possible, of course it is, right? So when Trump says like, oh, CNN is lying, fake news, or we totally obliterated it, and I'm gonna sue them and make more money, bribing, whatever, give me bribes, whatever. Like, no, that's nonsense, right? At the same time, when the Israeli government says we did not fully destroy their uranium stockpile, the translation of that 98% of the time is, we're gonna go back and bomb them, or we're gonna make you go back and bomb them, and we're gonna want more war, we're gonna want more money. And so look, here we could have a conversation, maybe a debate, I don't know what you guys think about it. But look, since 1948, the Israeli government has thought we are under constant pressure and stress and threat. We have to defend ourselves, and the way to defend ourselves is by constantly attacking the other countries. And why do they do that? Sometimes, in the case of the Palestinians, clearly to take more land. Right? We can have that debate, but we all saw it with our eyes. Oh God, for I am going to attack in self-defense in 1967. Oh, I am doing self-defense in 2023, 24, 25. Oh, look, I have 70% of Gaza. Oh, look, I have more and more land in the West Bank. It was all a coincidence. No, it wasn't. It was all self-defense. No, it wasn't even close to self-defense, okay? So now, having said that, were parts of it self-defense, like 1973 was self-defense? Yes, right? Now, the second part of it is, I believe that the Israeli government leaders, because of a deep paranoia, which is an understandable paranoia, think we have to either completely eliminate the militaries of all of the surrounding Arab countries and in the Middle East, or co-opt their governments. So Jordan fully co-opted, they're not, and Egypt fully co-opted, and in a way that's actually defensible, like that. Hey, they got a peace deal and they have peace. Okay, good. Like I could live with that as long as we're not doing more wars, etc., and everybody's safe and everybody has their own countries, right? But so I think Netanyahu, to some degree, is like a Dick Cheney-like figure who thinks if Iran has one vial of uranium left, it is my job to obliterate Iran. And why should I do it? And why should I pay for it? And again, it's kind of a rational thought. It's nefarious, but it's rational. They're like, why don't I get America to do it? America has bunker busters. I don't. If I can get Norway to pay for it, I'll get Norway to pay for it. But if I can get America to pay for it, I'll get America to pay for it, right? I mean, any other country would love to be in that position. They are in that position, so they do. So like when I see this, I think, yeah, A, two things can be true at the same time. A, it could be true that they still have some uranium left. And B, I don't give a damn, and I'm not going to war for Israel. Stop the goddamn bombing and shut up already. How many times do you want us to do this all on your behalf? Because there's one vial left, maybe. Okay, Mark, what do you think?
Well, there's no question that when Trump came forward and said, it's all been obliterated, we all knew that he didn't know. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it's not. You certainly can't know 30 seconds after you've dropped this thing, the dust hasn't even settled. So we know that we don't know. This is the first kind of intel we've gotten, although there were fragments of intel, you'll remember just days after US intel, suggesting that maybe there were parts of this operation that hadn't been completely obliterated. They built that structure below ground to a point such that it would be able to withstand a bombing of the sort that they just endured. So it makes sense, since it was designed to withstand that kind of blast, that something would survive. The broader question I'm in agreement with Cenk on, which is, to this extent, there's always going to be a reason to go after Iran. Iran is the provocateur in the region, and that's a kind of polite way to put it. I mean, they've been after Israel through proxies, through Hezbollah, which has now been defanged, through the Yemeni roots there that were, I'd say, diminished, not completely eliminated, and even in Syria. But of course, Syria is now a clean slate. So there is a reset moment here in the Middle East, but Iran hasn't been reset completely. And so this is the part I agree with Cenk on completely. They're singing from the all too familiar hymnal, which is, these guys are bad news. They're sponsors of terrorism. They want to see the destruction of our country, and we have to make sure that they don't have nuclear capabilities. As to what they actually have, no one knows. And because of what I just said and what Cenk has also said about the fact that they sing that song over and over, it's hard to necessarily ascribe great credibility to this intel.
Yeah,
I totally agree. So even if it was true, I'd be like, okay, how is it our problem? Like, come on, guys, enough is enough. And by the way, and if last political point is, Trump said anti-war. If he goes back and bombs Iran again, then he has no credibility. Because like MAGA,
I'm laughing because Cenk, he'd lost credibility already. I mean, it's like, okay, one more, I'll give you that one, but you go back one more time.
No, but there is a difference there. So for all of us, you're of course right, Mark, and it's funny, like Trump with credibility. Don't be ridiculous. I mean, guy's a pathological liar. I'm talking about his own base, right? And his own base, when he first did the bombing of Iran, was like, wait, what the hell? We said anti-war. Then when he stopped Israel from further bombing and got a ceasefire, then his base flipped 100%. They're like, Trump's a genius. Perfect bombing, right? Yeah. And perfect way to get to peace. But after he doesn't release the Epstein list, if he goes back to bombing Iran, they're gonna be out of all patience.
Yeah.
Total, and I don't think Trump will do that. I think that's a bridge too far. I think that would just be complete compliance with Netanyahu, and it would be humiliating and devastating for his base. So whether Israel does it themselves, that's a different question.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you, but he really could use a big distraction right now.
No, it would maybe, but it would backfire massively. People would be furious. Now you're gonna go back to war and we don't get the Epstein list?
Yeah.
No.
But John is right. He needs to order off the menu because he does need a major distraction. I don't know what it'll be, Cenk, but it has to be something, because the Epstein thing is a gift that's going to keep on giving. I mean, this thing is not over, as you suggested. This is radioactivity that is spreading. And it's reputational radioactivity, it's political radioactivity. So the two things may relate.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we got to take a quick break here. We'll be right back. All right, back on TYT. Rebel Dragon says, so I guess MAGA doesn't know about our bombing of Somalia. No, like nobody does. So look, guys, if you're looking for hypocrisy within Trump and MAGA, you're gonna find hundreds of examples, right? So, but like the fact that they're not being hypocritical on Epstein is dog bites man. I'm sorry, man bites dog, right? And so, yeah, and I'm thrilled that they are at least being principled on that. And we both sides agree. So there's nothing to fight over here. Both sides think it's total BS what the government's doing, and that Trump's full of crap. Great, wonderful. Asimov's prophet says, I was reading this morning and came across a passage that I think describes the Israeli mindset. Quote, expelling criminals was not enough. He needed to punish them, annihilate them, so they could not hurt his family or his people. And what of other kingdoms? They could come here, invade, destroy. His family would never be safe unless everything everywhere was under his control. Yeah, I think that they accidentally fell into that line of thinking. And so I don't think they started that way, but they got to a point where they thought everybody's a threat. So we have to attack them before they attack us. And next thing you know, that Israel has attacked almost all their neighbors. And so I know they genuinely, the citizens of Israel genuinely believe they're doing self-defense. Whether the government does is a different question, right? Because they think, well, we got to defend ourselves before they hit us. And we know they're gonna hit us because we're always gonna get hit. We're always gonna get victimized. So we have to go and hurry up and kill them first. Or occupy them first. I mean, 58 years isn't enough? No, come on, ridiculous. America needs a reboot says, smell that? I think someone's cooking up scapegoat soup. I don't know that that's a thing, but I like it. Okay, Little Mac McGee says, like, I went to war with some right-wing MAGA dudes. They're not all bad people. They just are good people who are manipulated by bad people, which I think is 100% right. Like some of them are bad guys on the radical right? But most of the Trump voters are like most of the Biden voters. Most of the Biden voters thought that he was mentally fine, right? They didn't think he was incognitive. They didn't think he had dementia, and they're like, let's go put a guy who has dementia in the White House. No, they genuinely didn't think he had it, right? And for the Trump guys, I know it might seem unbelievable to you, but they really thought he was anti-establishment. And they thought he was anti-war and anti-corruption and all those things. And to us, it might sound funny, but they genuinely believe that. And they look at us and go, can you believe they thought that Biden was young? That's crazy. So we're both in our bubbles. And so, but one of the good things about this, I mean, it's a ironic silver lining to the Epstein disaster is that it's breaking the bubbles a little bit. It's bursting the bubbles. And so that's amazing. Fidel Castro Oil on Twitch says, oh wow, I just had an epiphany that Steve Bannon filled the shoes that Rush Limbaugh vacated. I think there's actually a lot of truth to that. I thought that was a really good point. Athenon61 says on Twitch, thanks for doing all you do. Friday is good because of the power panel and the garbage people of the week. Thanks so much, you've helped turn this boomer. That's awesome. Garbage person is on Damage Report. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, John, and Mark with you guys. Don't forget to check out Damage Report. That's John's show every day. When I say every day, of course, you know, Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern, and the Mark Thompson show on YouTube as well. All right, John, what's next?
Okay, jump into this.
I'm not a voter in New York City, and so I have no dog in that fight. And everything that I've read on him, I don't really agree with virtually any of it politically. So that's just where I'm at as a Democrat. I mean, so he's not even a Democrat, honestly. It's very clear that the GOP are going to use him as their tentpole on their messaging. And I don't think that's helpful at this point to have that be someone that's been identified as one of the emerging faces of our party.
So that is John Fetterman repeatedly attacking Zohran Mamdani, saying that he's going to be used as a tent pole held up by the right to make the Democrats look bad. And he said that on Fox News, which is always happy to have John Fetterman on these days. So a little bit of irony there, but he's not the only establishment Democrat attacking Mamdani. We also have former Representative Dean Phillips, who had this to say.
Is there room for you and Mamdani in the Democratic Party?
The answer ultimately, I think, is no. You know, we do share many of the same values. In fact, most Americans share a lot of the same values. But as a political party, yes, you want diversity. You want some differences of opinion, perspective, life story, politics, and experience. But when you have socialists in the Democratic Party, I don't know how anybody could argue that that would be beneficial for the party or for the country. Therein lies the great challenge. Same thing on the right, Omar. Is MAGA the future of the Republican Party? If it is, there is going to be a new, grand, successful third party in America because the overwhelming majority of Americans want neither far left or far right politics. They want decency, they want common sense, competency, and cooperation. And no party right now is elevating candidates who represent those ideals.
So just speaking for myself, I have a good bit more respect for Dean Phillips than I do for John Fetterman these days. And yet, I mean, so much of what he said is just such, you're still doing this? All I have to do is say the word socialist and this conversation should be done. Why are you still talking to me? I mean, he's a socialist. You're terrified of socialism, right? Because he grew up in a different time, a different economic context, and clearly doesn't understand that when you get past the label, which is supposed to set fire to Mamdani, and you actually talk about what he focused on, it isn't crazy, and it's not scary, and it's actually not that different than some of the stuff that John Fetterman campaigned on before whatever happened. But they want to just shut him down with the label and imply that for some reason being a socialist is the opposite of being decent and capable and compassionate or whatever. The people of New York have spoken. They think that if they're going to apply those labels to anyone, it's going to be Mamdani. There were establishment Democrats in that race. If they wanted the same old thing, it was literally running against Mamdani, and yet they rejected it. And a lot of people have been learning at least some sort of lesson from that race, but there are still people that, perhaps for ideological reasons, perhaps for monetary reasons, cannot ever learn that lesson.
Yeah, so I agree with John, two different people here with different motivations. So Dean Phillips, I disagree with him on a couple policies for sure, at least. But he's a good guy, and I don't say that just because I know him a little bit from the campaign against Biden, but he had the courage to run against Biden, and so that's why this one is so ironic, because then he got labeled an outsider, and he's been on the Young Turks talking about it, and he's like, wow, that doesn't feel good when they shun you and make you an outsider. But that's why it's so ironic. You're doing that to Mamdani right now. Right, so okay, we don't have to hate Dean Phillips to think that he was wrong there, and I think he is wrong. In fact, I'll just say more about that. Why is he wrong? Because what do you mean that is socialism? There's no room for that in the Democratic Party. No, there's room for whatever the Democratic voters say that there's room for. Right. To John's point, that's their job, not your job. Right. And so, for example, I don't call myself a socialist. We've been through this many times over the 20 years we've been doing Young Turks. Right. Twist on Bernie's democratic socialism. I call myself a democratic capitalist. In a lot of ways, the policies are similar. There's some differences, but the framing is, for me, democracy helps to check the excesses of capitalism. And so, and it always breaks down to what do you mean by socialism, right? So if you mean by socialism Norway, that's pretty good. Like Northern Europe has excellent policies, right? And some of the Asian countries like Taiwan, Japan, etc., right? Like we're kidding around about, my wife is from Taiwan originally, her friends, they're like, hey, are you worried that Trump's gonna deport you, etc.? Because now the Asian community is a little nervous because a couple of ICE events happened, and they're like, deport me to Taiwan where I would have universal health care? Not that bad, right? So like, if you mean that is socialism, then of course there's room for that in the Democratic. You can't say there's no room for that in the Democratic Party. That's nuts, right? So, but if you mean seizing the means of production, which is something that Mamdani did once say, right? Let's put it this way: is there room for people to think like that and still be in the Democratic Party? Sure, why not? Am I going to agree with them? No. Are they going to win overall and like lead the Democratic Party one day? I would be shocked. But maybe I'm a boomer. And maybe one day we'll go in that direction. But even if I don't agree with socialism, I certainly don't agree with seizing the means of production. We're gonna make sneakers, is that what we're doing? Okay, so the government? No, it doesn't make any sense to me. But But the brother is Mamdani is trying to do something. The reason they voted for him isn't because the voters of New York wanted to seize the means of production, okay? They voted for him because he was actually talking about affordability. And hey, you can't afford food, housing, transportation. And New Yorkers were like, that's definitely true. And the second thing he said was, and I'm going to try something. I'm going to try to do something about it. And all the other Democrats were like, I'm not going to try anything. No way. Status quo, baby. And that doesn't belong in the Democratic Party, right? Democratic Party is supposed to be for challenging the establishment in its roots, fighting for the average guy, not fighting for the powerful, not fighting for the donors, not fighting for the status quo. So Mamdani is closer than there. So then Fetterman is disqualified. I mean, he's a lunatic at this point. So he's the guy that they would say about him when he was running in his primary in Pennsylvania, oh yeah, he's with Bernie and those guys. They're not real Democrats. Now he's turning around and saying, no, I disqualify Mamdani. He's too progressive. He's not a Democrat. Okay, dude, I mean, you've lied about everything, but it's just unbearable. So Fetterman's a different animal altogether. Mark, what do you think?
Well, I mean, sadly, labels matter. I like your label, democratic capitalist, as you sort of you label yourself. Socialist still has, sadly, it has some stink on it. And you're right. It depends what you mean by socialism. I mean, communism and socialism, Marxism, these are all different things. So when you talk about seizing the means of production, the Marxist communist sort of extreme, that's not really reflected by anything that he says during his mayoral race or even in the primary. And even his breakthrough concepts are not so far off of what is being suggested by even Eric Adams. That is to say, complete limit on rents, I mean, total rent control in the city and parts of the city of New York, and of course, taxing the wealthy. These are breakthrough ideas that, as Cenk has just mentioned, treat a problem in New York. New York is too expensive. People are suffering there, and under the withering cost of living in the city comes this breakthrough guy with ideas to address those problems. And that matters. You want to call him a socialist? Call him a socialist. In the end, those labels will fade, perhaps, and the ideas will carry the day. But labels matter. And when you talk about Dean Phillips, last thing, he's speaking to what he perceives as the appetite in America for these kinds of candidates that have those labels attached. I'd say, look at the ideas before you look at the labels. People are looking for ideas now, particularly as the gulf between the haves and the have-nots increases. I really feel the breakthrough candidates like Mamdani, but on a national level, those with real ideas, they're going to carry the day. And these labels, which still, as I say, are significant, they are going to fade, and they're going to fade behind the real ideas for change. And as you know, and you point out on TYT all the time, the Democrats have to step up with real ideas. If you want to win power, you need real ideas. You can't just say, look how bad those guys are.
Yeah, so super last thing on this, on the policies. So let's take three of the policies that he mentioned. Rent control freeze. Now I don't think rent control works. So I know a lot of people on the left disagree with me, but he's not talking about making all of Manhattan rent control. He's just talking about the rent control that exists, freezing the increases on that. And that's a much more justifiable policy, even if I don't fully agree with it. It's not revolutionary. So Karl Marx isn't coming to seize Manhattan, right? So free buses, I wouldn't have thought of that. And although it's closer to what I would have thought of, I get the idea behind it. But I'm glad he suggested it. It's an interesting idea. The grocery stores run by the city. I wouldn't have been anywhere near my priority list, but an interesting idea. So why don't we try it? And that's what the voters of New York are saying. Why don't we try? We already tried, you guys. Status quo, don't change anything. That didn't work out for us. Now we'd like to try new ideas. And maybe, guys, maybe two of them failed, but one is a spectacular success. And then we realize, oh my God, the cities can run grocery stores. And then we realize, wait a minute, actually it turns out governments can run banks. North Dakota runs a bank, did you know that? And it's actually very, very successful. That's why you don't just stick with the status quo. That's why I'm in favor of Mamdani, even though I'm not sure I agree with any of his policies. At least the brother's trying. And I wanna try, and I wanna see if those things work, as opposed to let's go back to Andrew Cuomo. and do nothing but deliver for the donors. No, thank you. No, thank you.
I agree. You start with the grocery stores, then the banks, then the shoes, and then you seize the means.
Okay, or maybe we have public health insurance, which every other developed nation in the world has, and we get to a reasonable conclusion. Okay, guys, thank you, Mark and John. You guys are awesome. We got a whole second hour coming up. Are we going to be forced to be on Marjorie Taylor Greene's side on one thing? I don't know. I'm going to put you guys to a poll. We got a poll on that, and then we have Captain Underpants in the Epstein story. Who is Captain Underpants? You'll see when we return. Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them. Turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. You know, they'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, you know, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this. You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat. Animals are innocent. Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here. This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet. What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT? Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes. All right, back on the power panel, new power panel for you guys. Cenk Uygur, Elliot Morgan joins us. He's on Rebel HQ these days, and it's great to have you, Elliot. How you doing, brother?
Doing wonderful, guys. Thank you for having me. Very excited to chat, and I feel like the violin players as the Titanic goes down. So thanks for having me.
We got a lot of violin players. Sharon Reed, of course, joins us as well. She's on Rebel HQ as well too. All right, guys, lots of stories to get to. So Sharon, take it away.
Okay, Cenk, Elliot, we'll begin with this one. Captain Underpants.
I know for a fact documents are being suppressed. And they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them. But I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know. But I hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them. And that's wrong.
So here we are, the Epstein files saga continues, this time with former Epstein defense lawyer Alan Dershowitz. On Sean Spicer's show there back in March, Dershowitz emphatically claimed that he knew all of the clients on the so-called Epstein list. The clip resurfaced yesterday amid left and right-wing backlash to the Trump administration's denials that Epstein was blackmailing other clients. Dershowitz's insistence that there were other clients and co-conspirators was backed up by Sigrid McCauley, the lawyer representing several Epstein victims in their civil cases. Listen.
I think what's really just astonishing about this recent disclosure from the government is that they know they are sitting on a treasure trove of information and they're not turning it over. And I've worked on these cases for over 10 years now. There's a plethora of information that the public has not been able to see relating to Epstein and his co-conspirators. And as we know, he had a group of people around him who helped protect him and help that scheme to continue running. None of those people have been prosecuted.
All right, folks, and it's getting even sketchier, if you will. We're learning more that the 11 hours of prison footage that the Trump administration released from the night Epstein died may have been altered. Let's talk more about it. With metadata embedded in the video, analyzed by Wired and independent video forensics experts, shows that rather than being a direct export from the prison surveillance system, the footage was modified, likely using the professional editing tool Adobe Premiere Pro. The file appears to have been assembled from at least 2 source clips, saved multiple times, exported, and then uploaded to the DOJ's website, where it was presented as, quote, raw footage. Experts caution that it's unclear what exactly was changed and that the metadata does not prove deceptive manipulation. Video may have simply been processed for public release using available software with no modifications beyond stitching together 2 clips. But again, it adds to the mystery here with no clear explanation from the Justice Department. We simply can't say for sure what exactly went down that night. Hani Farid, a professor at UC Berkeley, whose research focuses on digital forensics and misinformation, says this about the footage. If a lawyer brought me this file and asked if it was suitable for court, I'd say no. Go back to the source. Do it right. Do a direct export from the original system. No monkey business. DOJ, FBI both refusing to answer questions about this. So Cenk, look, we've already established that MAGA loyalists are not going to let this go. What more, though, does these revelations today tell us?
First on Dershowitz. So we kid around about Captain Underpants because there's a story of how he got a massage at Epstein's place, but he says he kept his shorts on. So we had a good laugh over that, and he says, no, it's okay, my wife was there, and I was like, wow. Okay, but because we're the fairest show in America, as I watched that interview with Sean Spicer, I thought, I mean, he's getting me to question if he's really did do anything wrong and why, because he's saying the same thing Steve Bannon is saying. And 2 guys, I can't stand Alan Dershowitz or Steve Bannon, but they're both saying, why don't you release the whole files? Because we didn't do anything wrong. Now people are accusing us. Dershowitz has been accused for a long time, and Bannon just got accused by Elon Musk. So they're like, no, that's it. Just release the goddamn files, because now we're all getting smeared. And Steve Bannon's even calling for a special prosecutor. So, okay. So did Dershowitz do it? I have no idea. How would I know? The government's keeping it a secret, right? So, but I agree with him in this case. Yeah, release the files, then we'll know. So now to the tape. I mean, first of all, they released the tape, and it's a freaking joke. So as I've said many times, on the day that Epstein died, Anna and I were on the air. It was breaking news. And I said, if the camera in the hallway isn't working, they killed him, okay? If the camera in the hallway is working, then it was suicide, then I believed it, right? And then we found out later, oh, golly gee, the camera in the hallway wasn't working. We cannot see his prison cell. I was like, yeah, all right. Color me shocked, right? So now they say, okay, that's all right. We got it, we got the tape. Oh, no, really, you did, so the camera was working. No, we got a tape of the common area. What does that prove? That doesn't prove anything. Oh, by the way, there's a minute missing. And then Bonnie's like, no, every prison tape has a minute missing. Does it? Okay, so then Wired magazine with a great reporting today where they're like, yeah, it was edited. There's two clear different parts of it, edited together. We don't know what was, if anything was manipulated further, but we do know like there was different issues with the tape. They had different resolution, this, that, and other. And this is really important. The government put out two tapes. One that was like, hey, you can see it more clearly here, and the one they called the raw footage. And Wired magazine proved it was not raw footage, it was edited. So the tape was junk, and to begin with, it's not showing you the hallway, it's showing you a random place in the prison, or almost random. Then we know that there was a piece of it missing, and now we know it was edited. So, gee, I wonder if the government is trying to cover it up. I can't quite tell when the government says hundreds, maybe even thousands of underage girls were raped, but no one raped them. We can't find a single client, and we're not going to prosecute anyone. Okay, that's the wildest conspiracy theory I have ever heard. And the fact that it's coming from the government doesn't make it any better. Elliot, what do you think?
To be honest with you, Cenk, I appreciate Dershowitz doing what I think you need to do when it comes to a conspiracy theory, which is leave some kind of question mark, something open for people to wonder about. Him saying, hey, I know about all this, but I can't talk about it because of confidentiality seems like a really smart move. What's not a smart move is to go, hey, look over there, and hey, don't even ask us any more questions about this, and don't worry about the tape, and don't worry about the list. I think that's gonna continue to be a bigger and bigger backlash for him.
Yeah, and Elliot, just real quick on that before I toss back to Sharon. Benny Johnson has a story about Dershowitz and Epstein. We'll get to that in a sec. And it could be that Dershowitz thinks, yeah, I know who did it. And I know that since it's people that are never ever going to release the list because they're in the government, I can say anything I want about the list because I know it's never gonna come out. So that's also possible, but we don't know. Sharon.
Yeah, the whole thing just keeps getting, as we said, sketchier and sketchier. One of Trump's buddies now is making excuses about it. Bill O'Reilly is divulging a conversation he allegedly had with Donald Trump back in March.
He said, and I agree, there are a lot of names associated with Epstein that had nothing to do with Epstein's conduct. They maybe had lunch with him or maybe had some correspondence for one thing or another. If that name gets out, those people are destroyed. Because there's not going to be any context. Media doesn't care about context. So you can't do that. You can't destroy human beings by putting out the files, whatever they may be.
Okay, so Bill O'Reilly there making it seem like the barista from Starbucks is also on the list who Epstein perhaps visited daily. I mean, this is a guy who loved to party. Are we buying this excuse that you don't want to this is politics. We don't want to muddy up everyday people who just, had coffee or lunch with this guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's just patently absurd. Okay, so all right, you're saying, well, if you just throw out a list, you vomit out a list, some of the people might not have done it. And you're, okay, yeah, that's a fair point. So why don't you put out a list of the people who did do it? You have them on tape. It's not like you don't know who did it. So, okay, why don't you be super careful? Start with a list of 5 or 10. Remember, there's hundreds, right? We're not asking you to be wild-eyed. right? So it's just nothing but excuses, total and utter BS. So look, guys, the theory most likely, to me is there's one force on earth that can get both the Democrats and the Republicans to cover up a story of this magnitude, and that's an intelligence agency, CIA or one of our allies, Mossad, MI6, those are the other two that have been mentioned. And we're either working with them or we're covering up for them, or it's just us and not them, right? That makes sense. And here's why, another reason why it makes sense. If you're going to start prosecuting people, one person, 5 people, whatever it might be, and the CIA did do it or Mossad did do it, then you have to say to people, yes, our government is so evil that not only did we cover up the child rape, we orchestrated the child rape in order to be able to have blackmail material on powerful people. And nobody wants to admit that their government is that evil. And that's the realm we're in now. And that's why this thing is a powder keg. Because I don't think the American people on the right or the left are gonna say, you know what, we're good with it. So maybe every once in a while, a government we don't know, rapes our kids and then or orchestrates a situation where rich and powerful men rape our kids and then get away with it. I don't think that anyone is going to stand for that at all. And the thing that I promised, Benny Johnson had a segment with Marjorie Taylor Greene where he claims, it's not me, but he says that he had an interview with Dershowitz earlier where Dershowitz said that he would take Epstein to meet members of parliament in Israel. Things that make you go, And so maybe Dershowitz knows, okay, it's not that, and that's why I'm saying release the files. It's actually maybe the CIA or just powerful people, and it's not Mossad, et cetera. Or, right, and again, there's no way for us to know. Or Dershowitz thinks, yeah, I know exactly what happened, and there's no way the American government is going to throw Israel under the bus. They're gonna cover up for Israel from now till the cows come home. So I can say anything I want. Oh yeah, I'm definitely not on the list. Oh yeah, sure, release it. Yeah, oh yeah, I kept my shorts on, sure, right? But the very fact that he said, I know that it exists, there definitely were clients and they are covering it up. Well, thank you, Alan. So I don't know what you meant by it, but now we all know, like as if we didn't already know, we know 100%. Yeah, of course there were clients. Of course the girls didn't rape themselves. Of course it's on tape. And of course the government is covering it up. Elliot.
I mean, I just want to take a moment and shout out this administration for finally draining the swamp because, rather than draining the swamp, they're just saying, oh, sorry, we can't release this list because we're the swamp and there's a swamp back there and we got to protect the swamp. And I feel like that's just one more level where they're not fulfilling the promises that they ran on.
Yeah, I'm gonna add one last thing to that. Because look, when you ask Democrats, or at least the left that I know, right? Hey, is it weird that both Biden and Trump didn't release a list? I think the overwhelming majority go, yeah, that's super weird, right? Before when you ask the right, hey, isn't it weird that Trump didn't release the list on his first term? And he was great friends with Epstein. What you would have heard back is, and I know because I did hear it back, that's just no, trust the plan. 8-dimensional chess, when he gets into office the second time, boom, he's gonna release the list and now we're gonna show the deep state and the Clinton and the Democrats and the Bill Gates, all those, all right. Now when you ask MAGA, well, what do you think happened? They're like, yeah, no, they both didn't release it, we're all screwed, we got lied to. And so now the country's united. The government, whether it's Republican or Democrat, will not prosecute any of these powerful people who rape those underage girls. And now there's a very legitimate chance it's because the government was involved in that. And that is a pretty devastating thing to find out about your government. That's why this story is not going away. It's only gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask both of you. Is there any diversion that can be created to kind of force people to look away, go in another direction? We've got the assistant FBI director who's in some kind of verbal argument, late breaking with Pam Bondi over this, and people threatening to quit. And it just seems to be growing. Whoever's on the list, it's probably huge, but it's even bigger because people keep speaking to it, not letting it go, and our imaginations are running wild.
Yeah, Elliot, what do you think?
Yeah, I really don't know. I think that when you look at what's happening right now and the amount of people that are potentially on the list, my first thought when this all started happening was, oh, this must be the distraction. Like, this must be something, because this administration is throwing everything at the wall to try to say, like, hey, look over there. And at first I thought this was just another one of those things. But them just flat out saying no and stop asking questions about it seems to me so counterintuitive for what they normally do. Like, normally they're way smarter than this, in at least that way. And so now I'm going, oh, is this, like, how big does this story get and how big will it get? And it seems by the hour to be getting bigger. So we'll see. I don't know. I think it's like, it's TBD.
Yeah, I think this is the iceberg. And so, like, you know, it's just funny you asked that, Sharon, because during the break, we were discussing here on the set, like, the same exact question. And John Iadarola was saying, like, Greenland, is he gonna try to invade Greenland to distract? And we were talking about, hey, is he gonna, go, oh yeah, we didn't finish off all the uranium, and the Israelis, all right, let's bomb Iran again. But bombing Iran would only be counterproductive. It'd make his base even angrier, right? So I don't think that that'll help. Like, I don't think anybody's gonna get distracted by Greenland at this point. So, nah, I don't think so. I don't know what happens.
Why can't it be leaked? Leak it, you know?
Yeah, I feel like also the one factor here is that this involves Trump personally, and it makes him look bad. And I think that might be a shocker, a driving motivator.
Yeah, of course, that's a huge factor in this. And so I can't see how they would distract. But on the other hand, are we going to talk about this for the next 3.5 years until Trump leaves office? I don't know. And Trump does so many maniacal things, right? But I think this is the mother lode. I think they hit the epicenter here in terms of we're all done with government lies on this. So I don't know what they're gonna. I don't know what the government's gonna do. I also don't know what mainstream media is gonna do. Are they just gonna be like, okay, yeah, we're moving on. All of you guys are conspiracy theorists, or are they gonna, stay on the story? And that's TBD as well. Okay, we got to take a quick break here, guys. When we come back, do we agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on something? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. We're gonna ask you about it after we give you the news. We'll be right back. All right, guys, lots of ways to help the show. Simple 5-second easy ones like ring the bell to keep up with the show underneath the video, subscribe. Those are free. If you want to join and be part of the community and have us read your comments, get all of our coverage anytime you want, all of our content, tyt.com/join or the join button below on YouTube. And then I want to tell you real quick about Shop TYT. A lot of great things there. Anna's statement in the great debate she had on Piers Morgan with comical, ridiculous Israeli supporter. She said, you're a violent individual. You guys loved that. We made a shirt out of it. ShopTYT.com. My shirt that I'm wearing now, Operation Hope. I love this. We got a lot of Operation Hope and Team Joy t-shirts, etc. It's pretty unique to us. Check that out at ShopTYT.com as well. And now let me go to members on TYT.com. Over 9,000 says, wait a minute, if Dershowitz said he has direct knowledge of the Epstein client list, maybe there really isn't one. So I like that. That's ironic credibility for the government's position. If Dershowitz is saying it, I mean, has he ever told the truth? In my lifetime, I'm not sure, but maybe we'll find out, maybe we won't. Okay, Microgram says, these three MAGA guys, when we showed the clip of Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and Jack Posobiec, I thought this was really funny. I know it's from earlier in the show, but Micrograms wrote in, these 3 MAGA guys look like before, during, and after a midlife crisis. Okay, that was really good, and they do. So in the YouTube member section, Kevin Shea says Bongino's working on his book right now. Probably some truth to that. I don't know if anybody's gonna buy it, literally, nobody's buying his story. Not Sure says that gap in the video is mighty shady. Preston the Dragon says, if Biden got rid of the evidence, right, how did Pam Bondi watch thousands of videos and have the file on her desk in February? Can't be both of those things. No, that's definitely true. I mean, Pam Bondi and the entire government are equally guilty of covering this up. Everyone all the way up and through Trump all made the decision together to cover it up. But Pam Bondi is uniquely culpable for how she has handled it. So she's like, oh, the files are right here. It's like smearing it all over her face. Oh, I've seen the tapes. And then later, there are no tapes, there are no files. Okay, well, you couldn't have screwed it up any worse than that in terms of the politics and the optics of it. But they're all equally guilty because any one of them could release the tapes and they're all choosing not to. Brendan Jones says, Democrats, Republicans, Wall Street tycoons, etc. are all involved. Good luck getting the records released. Bruce City Mike says, but will they still vote Republican? Then their anger means nothing without a flip vote. No, brother, 2 things. As always, there's a giant range of Trump voters. The independents, yes, can flip over to the Democrats and vote. But even for the MAGA guys, it's not just that do they vote for a Democrat, do they stay home? And what I'm seeing all over MAGA social media is ain't nobody going out to vote for these guys. So the staying home thing. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Sharon, and Ellie with you guys. All right, Sharon, what's next?
MTG, listen and we'll talk about whether you agree.
What do you say to all these Israel first, like neocons and warhawks that have come out of the woodworks these past few weeks, who label anyone who doesn't back every single one of Israel's actions as labels as anti-Semitic?
I completely reject that. As a matter of fact, I find that to be a form of bullying. And, I think organizations like AIPAC and Christians United for Israel should register under the law as foreign agents.
All right, so Marjorie Taylor Greene there admitted there's a lot to disagree with when it comes to MTG, but give credit where credit is due, perhaps. She's one of the few Republicans speaking out against Israel and lobbyists. And she wants to cease funding for Israel. Cenk, we're gonna hear more from Marjorie Taylor Greene in just a little bit, but what are your initial reactions to what she just said?
Yeah, I'm gonna make you guys uncomfortable by having you vote in a poll on whether you agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on her take on the Israeli lobby. So that's in the live chat. That's also on tyt.com, and I'm curious what you guys think about it. And watch all the evidence first. She's got more coming up. But she's saying I'm in a bunch of different ways. I mean, I'll do as my daughter says, I'll spoil the beans for me. Yeah, I think she's totally right. We have many stories from Democrats as well. Marie Newman, former congresswoman, came on the show, said, oh, the bullying from the Israeli lobby is unbelievable, right? And then, the extra money that they keep getting over and over again. So I don't know that I disagree with it. Anything that Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying on this issue. I massively disagree on other issues. But look at that, 87% saying that's right. Okay, but let me let you show the rest of the videos and then we'll bring Elliot in.
Okay, as we've discussed before, Greene has become very outspoken about America's involvement in foreign wars. This past week, she announced she's introducing amendments to stop additional aid to Israel. It's being laid out in the National Defense Authorization Act. This is the annual bill that outlines priorities for Defense Department funding. She announced these amendments on Steve Bannon's War Room this past Wednesday. Listen.
I'm entering amendments to strike $500 million more for nuclear-armed Israel, and it's important to say nuclear-armed Israel because they do have nuclear weapons. This is not a helpless country, and we already give them $3.4 billion every single year in the state from the State Department. $3.4 billion every single year. They don't need another $500 million in our defense budget. That's for the American people's defense. That's for the defense of the United States of America and our borders. Israel, nuclear armed Israel, I think it's really important to phrase it that way. Nuclear armed Israel doesn't need $500 million more from the American people. Our government just bombed Iran on their behalf and destroyed Iran's nuclear problem.
And it almost seems like an unlimited budget. NDAA supports a total of $925 billion in funding for national defense, $878.7 billion allocated to the Department of Defense, $35.2 billion to the Department of Energy. Now, the bill also allows for up to $6 billion in general transfer authority for unforeseen higher priority needs. As from Reuters, Senate Armed Services Committee has already approved $500 million in security for Ukraine, which passed 26-1. In addition to Israel, MTG also expressed interest in cutting the additional defense spending to Taiwan, Jordan, as well as money that goes to Africa for HIV prevention and education programs. This is not the money sent through the State Department. Those are separate funds, we should note. Then yesterday's episode of the Matt Gaetz Show, which was guest hosted by Vish Bura, Greene went on to explain that she supports Israel 100%, but is not afraid to say no, and that's okay.
I think organizations like AIPAC and Christians United for Israel should register under the law as foreign agents because they are lobbying on behalf of Israel. Now, I fully support Israel. I support many countries all over the world, and I truly want the best for their people. However, I work for the American people, and my job title is United States Representative. I'm unapologetic about it. I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't wish any Israel or any other country harm. As a matter of fact, I want world peace, and I push for that constantly. But I really think that we should start calling it bullying. It's not wrong to say no to Israel. And we need to remind everyone, Israel has nuclear weapons. And to my Christian friends out there, this is the secular government of Israel that we're talking about and not the Israel of the Bible.
So, Cenk, many people are saying, never mind the messenger in this case, whether you like her, don't like her, agree with her generally or not, she is making more sense, some are arguing, than members on both sides of the aisle here.
Yeah, so far I don't really disagree with anything she's saying on Israel. Like on the HIV thing, for example, that's a great distinction between us and her. That program, by the way, started by George W. Bush, to be fair, has saved 25 million lives. It's like one of the best things the American government's done. In the midst of an otherwise absolutely disastrous 2 terms, George W. Bush at least did that, and that was a hell of a thing. And they're saying, and it's like, it's so small compared to the rest. So I get it. There's people on the right who say, I don't care, I want to cut it all. That's Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? There's folks like us who say, well, wait, are we saving 25 million lives? Or are we helping commit war crimes and genocide? I don't want to fund the genocide, but I like the idea of saving lives, right? And then I suppose there are people, well, there's a lot of people inside the government who say fund it all, right? So now in terms of the facts on the registering as a foreign agent, I don't see how you could, I mean, I see how you could disagree with it because you say, well, it's American citizens that are donating, saying, I want our representatives to, be nice to Israel. I mean, work for Israel, depending on somewhere in that spectrum somewhere, but definitely support Israel, right? That's the whole point of AIPAC. Israel's in the name. The only thing is about Israel. There's another group that's allied with them called Democratic Majority for Israel. So, and then when you point that out, they say, oh, that's comical. What do you mean registering as a foreign agent? No. We ran all these ads in Cleveland because it's Democratic Majority for Cleveland. But it isn't, it's Democratic Majority for Israel. You're obviously lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. And so I think that you should register as foreign agents, and I think that makes sense. And by the way, you should apply that evenly to all of the different countries and the support system that they have, and a lot of them do. Now Israel's is way more powerful, but tons of countries have American citizens that form pacts and that say, okay, now only help the Turkish government, or help the Turkish government along with everything else, or the Indian government, etc. Right? So now on the extra $500 million, I mean, this is the thing with Israel. They feel enormously entitled. Like they get 3.4 billion every single year for like eternity. They already got about $30 billion to commit this genocide. They're like, oh, emergency. We have an emergency genocide to commit. And we gave them, both in the Biden and Trump administration, about $30 billion. That ought to do it. We don't need to give you more for that. And we should have given you nothing for that. Overall, Israel inflation adjusted dollars, this is probably way past it now, but the number that was from a couple of months ago was $311 billion we've given to Israel. Come on, for any country. Why do we owe you $300 billion? And after we've given you over $300 billion, why do we owe you more, right? Why do we have to do all of your defense? I mean, she's right, they have nuclear arms, they have the best military in the Middle East. They have a better military than the rest of the Middle East combined. They have universal health care, they have paid family leave. We don't have those things. Their budget's in okay shape. We have a $37 trillion debt. Why do we have to have the Pentagon budget give them an extra $500 million? It's insanity. In my mind, it's totally indefensible. Okay, but what do you think, Elliot?
I mean, honestly, I do kind of get a little bit into the conspiracy theories sometimes. And one of them is that we're living in a simulation. And I am starting to think that that's true because I'm trying to find something that Marjorie Taylor Greene said in those clips that I disagree with. Obviously, there's nuance that she's lacking, but that's who she is. I agree with everything that she said, not regarding withdrawing funding from other areas. But I think what Marjorie Taylor Greene represents for a lot of people is, especially on the left, is like a bridge to be able to communicate with people on the other side of the aisle. And it's not like we need her to like justify our positions that are based in ethics, but at the same time, being able to point to someone like this and go, look, this isn't just some fringe leftist crazy idea that we need to stop funding a genocide. It's also being supported by your own political party. And the fact that it is one of the more caricaturesque or more mascot-esque figures in it, I think is all the better. So props to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I guess I'm just sort of in shock whenever she says stuff, and I agree with it.
Yeah, she just seems to be making plain spoken common sense on this issue that many Americans would agree with. So that's what she has to say about Israel, lobbyists, the money, foreign wars, all of it. But she's also talking about Epstein, in addition to speaking out against US involvement in Israel's wars. Marjorie Taylor Greene has also been vocal about the Trump administration's failure to disclose in regards to the Epstein report. Here's what she posted on X earlier this week. What about her little black book? 97-page book contains the names and contact details of almost 2,000 people, including world leaders, celebrities, businessmen. No one believes there's not a client list. And then yesterday, in response to Alan Dershowitz claiming to know the names of the individuals on the list, here's MTG again on X. Release the Epstein client list. So what does her opinion on the Epstein files have to do with a block about Israel? People might be asking. Well, she officially joined in on the speculation that Epstein actually worked for Israel. Listen again.
I just want to put up the evidence here, just so that everybody who's going to clip the show, so, how dare you, how dare you? Here it is, the Times of Israel. Ehud Barak met with Jeffrey Epstein dozens of times, flew in his private jet, was friends with them. Photos of him going, he was there. Look, this is a good one, including 2014 private flight in Florida after he had been charged and convicted and found guilty and done prison time for child sexual abuse. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
this is there's a clear line right there. And
read it and weep. Yeah.
Are we supposed to deny what our eyes and ears tell us? And absolutely not.
Okay, so there's a lot there. This isn't Pizzagate. This is a lot of 6 degrees of separation, if even, for this kind of thing. So Cenk, what say you?
Yeah, no, I agree with her on this one too. Like, do I know for sure that Mossad did it? Of course not. How would anybody know for sure? And could it have been CIA instead? Sure, right? Could it be that it was just that there's so many powerful people from both political parties that they can't release the list? Of course, that's also possible. But if you say it's not possible that Mossad was involved when the Prime Minister of Israel visited him 30 times, Benny Johnson also said in that same interview that Alan Dershowitz told him that he took Epstein to meet members of the Israeli parliament. Why are the members of the Israeli parliament meeting with this rando, right? And he said, and again, this is Benny Johnson's words, not mine, but he said the head of the Mossad had also gone to visit Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell, his co-conspirator who's in jail right now, her dad is Robert Maxwell, one of the most legendary Mossad agents in Israeli history. Got a state funeral. And we can go on, and his connections to other folks who funded AIPAC, etc. So maybe it's a lot of smoke and there's no fire. Maybe Ehud Barak was a client and had nothing to do with the Israeli government. So impossible to know for sure. But is it legitimate to ask that, given all that evidence? And given the fact that the US government is covering up under both Republican and Democratic administrations, and usually there's only one lobby they do that for? Yeah, of course it's legitimate to ask that question. Like that is, I mean, even calling that a conspiracy theory to me is wrong. There are three potential legitimate theories: Mossad, CIA, some combination of those, but it could be just CIA, so we'll call that two different theories. And then there's too many powerful people. That's the third theory. What is a conspiracy theory that has already been eliminated is there was hundreds of girls who were raped, but no one raped them. They raped themselves. There is no client list. There were no clients, and no one will be prosecuted. That's the government's position, and that's the most ludicrous conspiracy theory I've ever heard. So how about this one, Elliot? What do you think about her thoughts on this?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, this is quickly going from a conspiracy theory to just the conspiracy. I mean, when you lay it all out, it's like that meme from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where the guy is just looking at the board full of all the white papers with the red lines connecting all of it. And after a while, you start just going, oh, actually, I don't think we're the crazy ones here. And all of this actually does add up in some regard. What I didn't expect was for it to be so incredibly dark. Like, I thought this was going to be something where Trump was very simply just narcissistically protecting himself, and I'm sure that's an aspect of it. All of these new developments and the very fact that it was instigated and catalyzed by them saying don't look at it, I think is just baffling.
Yeah, I'm gonna gratuitously throw in this thing here. Like, because whenever you talk about Israel, there's always the charges of anti-Semitism that she referred to, and everybody on the left has dealt with, etc. Any criticism will trigger that. Guys, two things that are super important. Even if it was Mossad, that doesn't mean it was all the Jews. Like, for example, if it was the CIA and you're a random American, do you think the CIA would tell you? Of course not, right? Is Mossad gonna go tell random Jewish people, oh, by the way, we're doing this conspiracy? No, of course not. Regular people have absolutely nothing to do with it, okay? And religion has absolutely nothing to do with it. Also, Israel's not allowed to hide behind charges of anti-Semitism on this one. No. Don't be weirdo anti-Semite for no reason. Jews across the world didn't do it. They're not part of the Israeli government. They're not part of their spy agencies. We're not part of the CIA. You're not part of the CIA. You get that, right? On the other hand, when you say, oh no, those are all super legitimate points, but you're not allowed to say it because we're Israel. Nah, that's not gonna fly. Okay, and the time for that working has officially come to an end. Okay, and apparently a lot of things have come to an end, including maybe Elliot's point about reality, because we apparently agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and so does our audience, at least on this issue.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a quick break, a quick social break, and then we'll get right back after it.
All right, let's go to YouTube Super Chat. Titan wrote in a couple times. First saying, Elliot, we're 100% living in a simulation. The only explanation for this insanity is a simulation. And then he adds something to your theory, Elliot. He says, a kid has tweaked the settings to see everything burn. Imagine that's real, and we're like, no! Okay, anyways, he wrote in a little bit earlier. The United States Postal Service competes with private. Why is having government run stores the big bad? This for-profit model for everything is not working. Corporations never say, oh, this is a good fair price. They always race to maximize profits. So they're supposed to compete, but a lot of times, as we've covered a billion times on the show, they don't really compete, and they use the government to cut off competition. So yeah, look, I wouldn't, like I keep saying, I wouldn't have thought of it. It wouldn't have been high, but there's no harm in trying it at all. I mean, in fact, that's the experiment I'm most curious about. I'm curious to see how it's going to go. And you're right, absolutely. Post office, FedEx exists at the same time. The world didn't blow up. That's why we should also have public health insurance as well. The Cuckoo's Nest says red states in the Midwest already have government-run grocery stores, and they have proven that if you take the profit out of the equation, they dominate the market. They are there to compete. So a lot of good information there, guys. Way to be, smartest audience in the country. Schrodinger's Dragon says, just had a chat with another member about the awesome movie They Live, where aliens infiltrate our society and look like us. But there are special sunglasses which show who they really are. We don't need those sunglasses here. We know the bad guys. Yeah, so that's one of Bart's favorite movies. Here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Yeah. I love that line too. Bart got me into it, and I love it. So, this is a good point a couple people made. Guy Hadsel says in YouTube member section, with all the data Musk confiscated, couldn't he put his minions on the task of researching the client list? If it's in the files, we need anonymous now. Yeah, I was super worried about Elon Musk having access to those files. But this would be a silver lining, and he is trying to expose Trump and the Epstein files. I mean, for not great reasons, but if he does expose them for whatever reason, I'll take it, but probably not. And Octo Squiddy says on Twitch, I don't like saying Marjorie Taylor Greene is right. I'll say she's not wrong to take on AIPAC. We're making progress. All right, back on TYT. Real quick, Sharon, story next.
Warhawks, Cenk, listen to this.
I interviewed Congressman Ro Khanna recently, who's been advocating for the Democratic Party to be the anti-war party. He said that the party's become too hawkish. Is this an opportunity for Democrats? Might you be missing that opportunity if you don't sort of look at that messaging as a path for the party?
No, and I think Ro Khanna is wrong.
Okay.
All right, so she's not mincing words there. Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen took a shot at Congressman Ro Khanna for urging the party to embrace anti-war rhetoric and policies. That conversation with Chris Coons as well and Jeanne Shaheen took place 2 weeks ago during a political panel at the NATO summit event. The host, Dasha Burns, referenced a conversation she had with Ro Khanna about the 2024 election, how Democrats should strive to once again be known as the party of peace. Here that is.
We became the party of war. I think the Gaza situation really hurt us.
What should the Democratic Party be doing right now?
We should be the party of peace. We should be the party against getting us into another colossal blunder in Iran. The reality is that most of this country does not want a war in Iran, and the American people are sick of it. And they want new leadership on both the right and the left. And I just think that the old guard is way out of touch with where the country is.
But again, Shaheen couldn't disagree more, and she explains why in this next one.
I think Ro Khanna is wrong.
Okay.
The fact is, foreign policy isn't that easy. You can't just say, I'm against all conflicts, because they're all going to be against America's interest or against global interest.
What do you say to the
where we are. We're at the
let
NATO
me finish.
summit.
Yeah. I think support for the war in Ukraine is very important to democracies around the world and very important to the United States and our own national security. I think it's an important message for us to send to our allies and partners as well as our adversaries. I don't want to be involved in any wars, isolationist movement. We've been down that road. We saw what happened at the start of World War II, and that was not a place where I think we want to be again as Americans. You don't just say, no, we're going to be against all wars everywhere, because that may not be what's in America's interest. And that may not be what keeps us safe and secure in the long run.
But what about messaging to the American people, the voters? Shaheen argued that most Americans are smart enough to understand why isolationism does not work. But context is everything. At no point did Shaheen or Chris Coons bring up the war going on in Gaza or military support for Israel. They stuck to just talking about Ukraine and our European and Asian allies. So what do you make of this? She couldn't be more at odds with Ro Khanna and most of the American people when polled. Cenk?
Yeah, I used to jokingly call her Mean Gene Shaheen because I mean she's kind of irrelevant, never does anything, you never hear from her. But now, okay, she lived up to her nickname. Good for her. So when did the Democrats become the pro-war party? Because those two were like, what do you mean? Oh, of course we're pro-war. Democrats are pro-war. Ro Khanna's wrong. Anti-war nuts. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when the Democrats were the anti-war party. But apparently in Washington, they switched and never told their own voters, because their voters are very anti-war. So that's the policy part of it. The politics of it is, are you insane when the overwhelming majority of the American people are now anti-war? I mean, I wanted this population back when we had the Iraq war. Young Turks was on the air. I would have loved this kind of popular support for anti-war back then, and we couldn't find it. Now the right wing joins us, their voters, not their politicians, and goes, yeah, I'm anti-war. And now the lunatic, idiot establishment Democrats are like, no, we're against the majority of the country, and now we're a pro-war party. Total morons. Elliot.
I think you said it best, Cenk, when you referred to her as irrelevant. I think she represents a very old way of looking at foreign policy. She also kind of misrepresented the statement, no more wars. She said, you can't just say you're against all conflict, but I think a better way of thinking about it is to remember that war is better thought of less as a conflict and more as a failure to have conflict. It's like a last resort. And they seem to have forgotten that. And Mean Gene Shaheen seems to think that the conflict and the war are synonymous, and they're not. You can have conflict. No one is saying who is against war that there won't be conflict. And I think it's a little demeaning to voters to put it that way.
And look, I'll go further. Of course, they're not going to be anti-war these days because they're all taking money from AIPAC. And AIPAC is telling them, yeah, you're gonna fund this war. And if Israel tells you to bomb Iran and go to war, you'll go to goddamn war. So Chris Coons and Gene Shaheen are there to go, yes, sir, of course, sir, of course, sir. So like, I'm tired of everybody's lies. It's disgusting. And the media is like, oh, no, I bet that doesn't affect them. You think the millions of dollars they've taken from AIPAC doesn't affect them? They just constantly insult our intelligence. No, those establishment politicians, both in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, are all pro-war because their donors told them, ordered them to be pro-war, including the defense contractors, the oil companies that love war in the Middle East to drive up prices. So what you saw there in that video is the face of corruption. Good news, they're fighting another Democrat, Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna has joined the rebellion. He's part of Rebellion PAC. You can check that out at rebellionpac.com. Just go to Ro Khanna's website. Look, we gotta support the Democrats who remember a different time when the Democrats were Democrats, when we were the party that actually represented the average guy and that didn't represent the donors and more war. And Ro Khanna represents that. So does everybody in the rebellion. So check them out. Let's rebuild a new Democratic Party, which would be ironically the old Democratic Party when we were all anti-war. So, all right, guys, we did it again. We're way past time, but we have another bonus episode for you guys coming up next. and we have two amazing stories on it. Andrew Schulz voted for Trump and is now like leveling Trump. And then they try to end democracy in Missouri of all places. So hit the join button below if you're watching on YouTube, or tyt.com/join, and we'll see you there in a minute.